Back with you tonight. We stay then with that announcement from the Reserve Bank of interest rate hikes, always proving to be a double-edged sword for financially distressed households. And today's sharp increase could have come at a worse time, shall I say. It comes as consumers are battling high fuel, high food, and high electricity prices on every end, ever-escalating municipal rates and as well as other issues. Joining us now to share her expertise on managing, despite the current high cost of living, is personal finance expert Eunice Sibiya. By the way, you've got some questions on what to do now that the interest is going up. Send those questions or your comments on 072-110-5584, or you can tweet us tonight at Newzroom 405. I'm Eunice, good evening, and thank you very much for your time and for joining us tonight here on In Focus. If you had debt of R1 million, how much more are you paying today with the repo rate going up 75 basis points, including, of course, the petrol hikes and electricity hike? What does that do to your whole household budget?
Stress, and stress. I think that's how we are feeling, the most of us. Very anxious, very stressed, very scared of the future and what the future holds financially. To your question that if you have a debt of R1 million, what does 9% repo rate mean? God, it's a couple of R100 extra, probably pro rata at the end of July. But definitely in August, we're going to see debit orders and repayments increasing at an alarming rate, a rate that we haven't expected. We're still battling and bleeding from the gradual spike that we've been seeing since July 2020. Since it was 3.5% in July 2020. But today, in July 2022, we're talking 9%. I mean, that's steep. So the repo rate increase caught us off guard, the majority of us. We knew it was coming, but not at this rate. Not a whole 75 basis point at once. Like the other reporters have been saying throughout the day, that it is the highest spike or increase in 20 years. It is alarming. What does this mean to ordinary consumers out there and households? Tabo, you asked. Look, it's an increase of everything. Increase of food, rent, mortgage payments or bonds, vehicle finance, food. In Xhosa they say, Njibalandonina.
Yeah.
So everything is going to increase.
How do you prepare for that? I mean, some experts I heard saying a little bit earlier on, this is not, of course, the average kind of increase that we will actually see, because if you look at where we were before COVID, we were a little bit lower than this. I think they're saying 2 percentage points lower than where it's sitting right now. Well, people might have adjusted to the lower interest rate, but those who didn't adjust, would you say they are better off?
They are not better off. They're going to be worse. Like I said, everyone is shocked. So if people have been battling with the gradual uptake of interest rate hikes, the 9% is going to, almost knock us by the feet, by the ankles. So the question is, with the status quo right now, how are we going to cope? The stats show that between 70 and 75% of most consumers' income goes towards servicing debt, has been going towards servicing debt, between 70 and 75%. So you can imagine that the percentage is going to increase, Tabo, with this spike now. So how do we then cope? Financial planning in place? Do we have? Something is going to give. What is going to be my sacrifice? Where am I going to cut down? For years on end, we have been hearing, tighten the belt, and tighten the belt tighter. So now the belt is on the last hole. I don't know what we're going to do. But the questions that we need to ask ourselves as individuals and as households, this is very important, because it's not a one-man show, this. Even if there's one income in any household or one provider, the members of the family are part of the expenditure or the expense. So it has to be a household matter. So how do we review or alter our financial engagements. I need to look at my attitude towards spending. I need to alter my relationship with money going forward because, hey, I really need to sit down and adjust.
Yeah, got a number of developmental variables that get affected by this. Others say even education will be affected by this, and people might need to be looking at how much they are paying for schooling. People might need to be looking, of course, at how much they are paying for rent. But there are things that are unavoidable, and how do you then, to the words of Labour, prevent a high number of defaulters as this period, this cycle of interest rate hikes is looming, at least right up until 2024, from what the Reserve Bank is saying?
True. Like I just said, adjustments are necessary. Adjustments are a must. We really need to review. And remember, Thabo, that we cannot talk about finances and not mentioning that B word, budgeting. Now, more than ever before, we really need to be disciplined and budget. To your point, there are areas of our expenses and finances that are going to be affected more than others, and there are areas where I can make adjustments. Like you make the example of changing schools for kids. If maybe they are at an expensive school and I feel that it's a constraint, it's going to be a constraint going forward, paying those school fees. So then I need to change my kids and move them to a less expensive school. That adjustment requires a discussion. We need to have conversations at home as parents and including the rest of the family members, which in this case would be the children. You have conversations with them to say, hey, things are getting tougher. Things are getting tighter. We need to adjust. And one of the adjustment areas would be maybe to look at a less expensive school and let's look together, because you need to involve them so that they are part of the change that is going to take place at home. And again, with groceries and other repayments, I was talking to a couple the other day where we're doing financial coaching to say they have 2 SUVs at home. What is the plan? Can we get rid of one, maybe get a sedan, or we get rid of both and get smaller cars? You know, such conversations need to happen. But before we continue, there's a plus to this increase, Thabo, that we shouldn't forget. Right now, we are focusing on debit interest, which is the interest charged on loaned items or finances. The other side, which is a positive side of the increase of the interest rate, is the credit interest, referring to investments. So those that have investments in place are smiling a little bit. Those that have retirement funds and pension funds spared somewhere else, the increase in the interest rate is a plus for them. So you're going to get a little bit more in your monthly returns on the credit side of things. So we shouldn't always look at it, one-sided. I know that side, the debit interest side, is quite heavy and hefty, and we feel it a lot. But we mustn't forget the positive side of the credit rate increase. Yeah,
this hiking cycle, I'm saying, is a definite no for people to be looking at debt at this particular point, because, of course, borrowing money is a little bit more expensive now, and it tends to be even going forward from the projections.
It isn't a good idea to be taking up new loans right now, Thabo, unless if you really, really, really have to. Because like I said, for the past years, consumers have been battling with the high rate of debt taken away, or of part of their income servicing debt. So at this point in time, if you really have to enter into a new loan agreement, please crunch the numbers. Crunch the numbers and make sure that you're going to be able to afford that debt for whatever the term of the debt is. If it's a short-term debt, maybe you'll get away soon. But the way the horizon is looking, there are more interest rate hikes in the pipeline. They were talking about another percentage, or maybe 0.75% due before the end of 2022. So if you're considering taking up new debt, please do your sums, at a higher interest rate, just to test your affordability. And I can guarantee you now, that's what the financiers or the bankers are going to be doing in terms of understanding and securing affordability and the risk rate of the individuals that are going to be entering into loans at this point in time.
Yeah. Considering what you've just said now, that of course we still have a little bit of headroom for the Reserve Bank still to continue hiking up rates. In terms of what you had said earlier, taking up investment, is it a good time then, therefore, to look at investment? And what type of investments would you be looking at that could at least give you a reason to have a little bit of a smile?
Investments are quite an interesting space, Thabo, because before you make a selection of which type of investment vehicle you'd want to participate in, that needs to match your plans, your goals, and your future needs. So if you are, and also your risk appetite. So look at those spaces to say, how much do I have right now? How much can I spare, and for how long? What is it that I need it for, or I plan to use it for in the future? Therefore, where is it safe to keep it? Okay, and also understanding that we always want the best interest rate in any investment. However, if your risk appetite is low, then you cannot take a riskier type of investment where the interest rate is high, credit interest rate that is quite high, because that matches a higher rate of risk in where the money is kept in terms of the type of investment. Again, age is a critical factor in choosing your investment. Someone like my age, we're really need to calculate, how bullish you are and where is it safer to invest, other than in comparison to somebody who's much, much younger, who still has a longer leeway ahead of me, even if the interest, the tool, the investment that they chose spike up and down, have those waves that are natural in any investment, but at least because of the longevity or the age a factor in their favor, then their investment can recover and they still yield positive results.
That's where compound interest, I suppose, kicks in.
Compounded interest is a benefit there.
It certainly helps you. Ma'am Eunice, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on and for your interventions here this evening. Personal finance expert Eunice Sibiya there with some advice for us.